Being one of the youngest countries in the world, South Sudan is among many other countries in Africa that rebelled and fought against colonialism. Pressure from the white men. On 9th of July, the Republic of South Sudan will be celebrating our 15th anniversary of independence after attaining independence in 2011. But this celebration comes with many untold stories. And this explains why tonight on Madid Updates, the program, The Youth on Madid, we are hosting the first female guild president of the International University of East Africa, Her Excellency Golda Deng Samuel Aru. Ladies and gentlemen, from whichever part of the country you are watching us from, do keep it here, and you've got a lot to learn from the history of South Sudan. Madam President,
Yes,
it's a pleasure having you on Madid Updates.
the pleasure is mine, of course.
Just to start with, growing up as a child, what stories did you hear from your community talking about the struggle of South Sudan?
Okay. So, growing up as a child in South Sudan, there are a lot of stories that I heard about. And such stories were really not just a textbook. Going back to the history of my grandfather, Samuel Aru, he was actually a prominent politician who actually signed the Khartoum Agreement. And he was live involvement in South Sudan politics. But unfortunately, he did not make it through. He died in 2005.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, but to me, the history is actually part of my lineage, and it is part of my blood. Having my grandfather as part of the struggle for independence. So the stories I used to hear is how the South Sudanese really struggled for their dignity, for their independence, and to have their own land to call as South Sudanese. Back in the days, there was that kind of discrimination that comes, we call ourselves Sudanese back in the days, but there was that discrimination where a South Sudanese is always given that lower status within the country, and they're not treated as, as rights. I don't know how I can call it. Is it like racism? But we are all black people. But us people who are like a bit darker, or who are like from the southern side of it, we always had that like lower status within the country compared to the Arabs, or the people who intermarried with the Arabs. I don't want to throw shades, but that is exactly how the situation was among the South Sudanese. And of course, there was a lot of blood that has been shedded back in the days. There was also a lot of rebellions that I was also told about. It was really a big struggle for South Sudan to get its independence. It wasn't just like a move where we woke up one day and we want to be independent. It was a whole struggle. It was a whole move from actually, for me I call it slavery. Like we were enslaved and we had to free ourselves. So independence in South Sudan just doesn't mean like just getting like our own country, but it means freeing ourselves from the slavery that we were caged in, and now we can make our own decisions in our own country and celebrate it as South Sudanese. That is the entire view of what I had back in the days.
Yes. Worldwide, South Sudanese are known for celebrating independence with pride and patriotism. What makes Independence Day celebration in South Sudan unique compared to other nations?
Okay. South Sudanese celebration is always worldwide known that, we always have our celebration publicly, openly, and in a very colorful way, with our cultural dances, with our cultural food, with the feasts from families, and, the entire community at large. So what makes us different from the rest is that we acquired that independence at our presence, like HE.Golda. We acquired that actual independence, or that actual moment of having our own country when I was actually, I was there and I was present. And it is just a unique sort of a feeling that you have, that, my country got independence before my eyes. And I believe most countries, who got independence back then, most of the young people who are living right now didn't happen to witness that exact moment. But for us, we are lucky enough as the South Sudanese youth who were able to witness that big moment of South Sudan, and it really makes us unique in that kind of a way. And another thing that makes us unique, as I mentioned earlier, is our cultural unity. Like, we normally focus on the cultural aspect of it, and embracing our cultural heritage when we are celebrating our independence, and that's the uniqueness of being a South Sudanese or celebrating our independence.
Let's look at things that normally make, Independence Day memorable. Things to do, like things like clothes, special meals. Growing up as a child, how were those things, so important to you?
Growing up as a child, having the Independence Day coming on table, you already have in your mind that it's going to be a big celebration. You're going to meet maybe with your cousins, with other relatives. Other people actually even slaughter a bull, and you're going to have really a big feast. So it meant a lot to me because I knew it was going to be like as much a celebration like I'm celebrating Christmas. So the clothes, the meals really meant a moment for me with my family. It is much more of a moment that unifies all South Sudanese rather than a moment that divides people. In South Sudan, the 9th July is actually taken as a moment of unity, where all communities, all people from different areas within South Sudan come together and celebrate that specific beautiful moment. So to me, it really meant a lot to gather with each and every loved one of mine and celebrate that that big moment as South Sudanese, not as divided groups of people. That is it.
There is widespread perception that normally in South Sudan, whenever the country is holding, Independence Day, there is widespread gunshot. What cultural and historic symbol does this has to bring on the table?
The widespread of gunshot within South Sudan is generally a misconception. The outside world normally assumes South Sudan is like a war-torn area, and people normally have the perception of, like, how do they call it? Is it shooting the gun on air or something? I don't know how I can explain it very well. So in South Sudan, that is not it. The gunshots are normally done in the honor of maybe if a military person dies and all that. But during our independence, it is mostly encouraged by the government and even by the civil societies that we should celebrate with songs, drums, rather than gunshots. So that is a total misconception that people assume it is related to our independence. I've celebrated, I think, very many independence within the country, and I really never had such an encounter. And if it happens, then it is something that it shouldn't actually have happened from the first point of it.
As the country, the Republic of South Sudan, nears, our 15th anniversary of independence, what message of patriotism and unity would you share or convey to South Sudanese back home and those in diaspora?
Okay, so to the South Sudanese back home, the only message that I can deliver to them is to maintain the unity, that unifying moment that brings us as South Sudanese at that specific moment of 9th July should be a unity that we should have it continuously. And I also want to tell the South Sudanese who are within South Sudan and also at the globe in general that let us keep the spirit of, patriotism, and also keep the spirit of unity within ourselves, and also fight for the South Sudan that our martyrs died for. That is the South Sudan that we want. It was a long journey, having the 15 years of independence. There were a lot of challenges that we faced as South Sudanese, but within those challenges we were able to achieve a lot of different things as a very young country. So I believe we shouldn't be biased, but we should rather look forward to a better South Sudanese as young people, as South Sudanese within South Sudan, and as South Sudanese, at the globe at large. That's the information, or that is the message I would love to pass to the South Sudanese.
In today's edition, ladies and gentlemen, we have been with the first female guild president of the International University of East Africa. There is a lot to learn about the Republic of South Sudan. Remember, this is The youth on Madid Updates, what is your story? Would you like to share your story? Do reach out to us on 0784 017 400 and do keep it here. Do follow us on TikTok, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Till we meet again. Bye-bye.